Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So I am very excited because I'm kind of doing like a part 2 video, but pretty much just because it's been a year since I did my last video, and that is going to be 5 books to read this summer. I wanted to do kind of summary in theme or tone, horror stories that y'all can sit, maybe not the most beach ready books because some of them are a little intense, I would say. Maybe not the most relaxing to read on the beach, but definitely very, very summer focused, summer oriented, or summer vibe-ish novels for y'all. And if you haven't seen my video from last year, I have another one that I posted back in 2021. I'll link that up above. And yeah, I started last year's with a Tim Meyer book. I'm going to start this year with a Tim Meyer's book. But I didn't really want to do like the beach theme. Like I definitely have one kind of beachy book in here, but the rest not so much. I more wanted to focus on a lot of the things that I really like about summer. So like when I was a kid, summer vacations, I absolutely adore coming of age stories. So I've got, I think 2, maybe arguably 3 in here, arguably 4 actually. But like the traditional like summer story. I could have put It in here by Stephen King, but I feel like everybody knows that I talk about It all the time, so I didn't want to quite do that. But yeah, so not all like beach, tropical kind of thing, but definitely summer-ish. So we're going to start off, as I said, with Tim Meyer, and this is Malignant Summer. This was released last summer of 2021. This is my favorite Tim Meyer book. It is pretty hefty. It's over 500 pages long. And it is a like true to form coming of age horror story, one of my favorites out there. And I absolutely adored it. I'm going to read the back of the book for y'all very, very quickly. It's 1998 in Hooperstown, New Jersey, and people are getting sick. Some citizens blame the local chemical plant. A select few believe something far more terrifying is responsible. A dreadful force that causes nightmarish visions and aberrant illnesses. Bad things are blooming in Hooperstown, and the stench of death is growing stronger. Standing on edge of summer break after the longest day of 8th grade ever, Doug Sims and his 2 best friends join a group of older kids for an all-night scavenger hunt. It's supposed to be a celebration, an evening of fun and freedom, but what happens that night will change their summer in the darkest ways imaginable. And not just their summer, but their entire lives. Malignant Summer is a coming-of-age epic where innocence is lost and the path through adolescence is painful, where dreamscapes merge with reality, where love seems possible, and the best season feels like it can last forever. I adore this book. I do love that it's set in New Jersey in the 90s. It's set right off the Jersey Shore. And if you've ever been to the Jersey Shore, you really like feel those like little tiny like Jersey Shore towns. It reminds me a lot of like Point Pleasant. But this book was so much fun. One of my favorite things about this novel is the bully trope is completely turned on its head. If you've ever read like a coming of age horror story before, or you've seen like the It movies, the kind of Henry Bowers character of like this bully always has to make an appearance, and they're always kind of the peripheral bad guy versus like the monster, the serial killer that the kids are fighting against. This one, the bully trope is done completely differently. For starters, it's a girl. I'm just gonna kind of leave it at that. But the bully character in this story was my favorite character. I loved reading about her. I thought her backstory was so interesting. I thought her contributions to the plot were amazing. And she just made this whole book like just an elevated experience to read. I'm not a big cosmic horror fan, but if you're into cosmic horror, there is a lot of cosmic horror in this. It doesn't quite give you that existential dread like wrapped up in the ending that a lot of cosmic horror does, which I think is why I like this so much. But it's very creature featurey as well, and it's just really, really cool. It has some really intense imagery, and it's all about kids on summer vacation. So yes, Malignant Summer by Tim Meyer, 5-star read for me. I adore this book, and I hope you guys will too. Alright, next up, we have another 5-star read for me. This is My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. I've probably talked about this book a lot on my channel because I really like Grady Hendrix' writing, and this is my favorite of his novels. This is another kind of coming-of-age story, but this time it focuses on 2 girls, and we are set in the 80s this time instead of the 90s. I will read the back of the book for y'all. High school sophomores Abby and Gretchen have been best friends since 4th grade. But after an evening of skinny dipping goes disastrously wrong, Gretchen begins to act different. She's moody, she's irritable, and bizarre incidents keep happening whenever she's nearby. Abby's investigation leads her to some startling discoveries, and by the time their story reaches its terrifying conclusion, the fate of Abby and Gretchen will be determined by a single question. Is their friendship powerful enough to beat the devil? Like an unholy hybrid of Beaches and The Exorcist, My Best Friend's Exorcism blends teen angst, adolescent drama, unspeakable horrors, and a mix of 80s pop songs into a pulse-pounding supernatural thriller. I don't believe this entire book is set during the summer from what I remember, but I know that there's like a lake house and it's all set in Charleston, South Carolina, which is pretty warm quite often. And it just has like a very light and summery feel to it. I know I read this at the beach the first time I read it, and it just fit perfectly with my mood and vibe. While this book is very scary, it's also really funny and lighthearted at the same time. Grady Hendrix is a master at kind of blending horror and humor, and I think this is by far his best version of that. This book is so much fun, and I stayed away from it for so long because, like I've said before, demonic possession is something that really, really scares me, so it takes me a while to want to read one of those books, but I absolutely adored this. It is fun, it is campy, it is weird, it is scary, it is just everything I want in like a summer beach read, if that makes sense. And I highly, highly, highly recommend this book if you haven't read it before. Alright, third, I actually just read this book. This is Until Summer Comes Around by Glenn Rolfe. This was a 4-star read for me, I believe, and it was very not what I expected. When I was first presented with this book, I heard that it was kind of like a tribute to like the Lost Boys, but like instead of being in California, it's set in Maine. And while there's definitely a lot that pays homage to the Lost Boys, this is a very, very dark book. It was a lot darker than I was expecting it, and it's not as fun and lighthearted as the Lost Boys, but it is set all during a summer vacation. It is definitely sort of like a kind of coming-of-age story, not like the typical genre, but it's definitely like a boy coming into his own with like the first love of his life kind of story. But it does really fit the summer vibe. It just really captures living in a beach town, especially if you're a local instead of a tourist. Reminds me a lot of like the Shoobies and Rocket Power. Like they talk a lot about like locals versus tourists in this book. But it really, really just nails that beach town setting during the summer. And so that is why it is on this list. And I will read the back of the book for y'all. Old Orchard Beach, Maine, summer of 1986. I did not mean for all of these books to be flashbacks, and they aren't all flashbacks, but we've definitely got some 80s and 90s nostalgia here. Sorry. So the pier, the Taurus, and the blazing sunshine. It's all perfect for something in need of warm blood. For 15-year-old Rocky, the summer is when the beachside town he lives in comes to life. But this summer brings her. When a mysterious dark-haired girl named November walks into his world, Rocky's life is forever changed. The young couple quickly fall under the spell of summer love, but not everyone approves. November's brother Gabriel is the keeper of the family's horrifying secret, and Big Brother is always watching. Locals are missing, worry turns to fear, and the community is on edge. Still, the beaches are packed, and the Ferris wheel turns as tourists pour into town by the thousands. Many of them will never leave. So yes, I did really enjoy this. I will say though, like I said at the beginning, this takes a much darker turn than I was expecting it to, so this is going to definitely be a little bit of a downer when you read it, but otherwise the beach setting absolutely, absolutely nails it. Okay, next up, Devolution by Max Brooks. I'm sure some of you are like, why is the Bigfoot book on your summer list? So I don't know about you guys, but I love hiking. I love hiking. I am from DC, and we used to go hiking the Billy Goat Trail out in Maryland all the time. All the time when I was a kid. I've been hiking in like Hawaii and Japan, and I just absolutely freaking adore hiking. So when I read this, and this was all about like kind of like a camp, not even a camp, like was it like a commune, I guess, up in the mountains. It just gave me all of these like hiking in the mountains vibes. And I was just like, oh, this is what I want out of a summer, is to just go hiking up in like the mountains in Oregon and looking for Bigfoot. So while maybe not the exact summary book that you guys might be thinking of, if you're into like the wilderness and hiking, especially during like the months of June through August, this guy really nails a lot of that. Okay, and I will read the inside for y'all. As the ash and chaos from Mount Rainer's eruptions swirled and finally settled, the story of the Green Loop massacre has passed unnoticed, unexamined, until now. The journals of resident Kate Holland, recovered from the town's bloody wreckage, capture a tale too harrowing and too earth-shattering in its implications to be forgotten. In these pages, Max Brooks brings Kate's extraordinary account to light for the first time, faithfully reproducing her words alongside his own extensive investigations into the massacre and the legendary beasts behind it. Kate's is a tale of unexpected strength and resilience, of humanity, defiance in the face of a terrible predator's gaze, and, inevitably, of savagery and death. Yet it is also far more than that. Because if what Kate Holland saw in those days is real, then we must accept the impossible. We must accept that the creature known as Bigfoot walks among us, and that it is a beast of terrible strength and ferocity. Part survival narrative, part bloody horror tale, part scientific journey into the boundaries between truth and fiction. This is a Bigfoot story as only Max Brooks could chronicle it, and like none you've ever read before. So yeah, this is an epistolary for the most part. The whole thing is told through journal entries. Really tries hard to do kind of like the Blair Witch Project, like this really happened thing. And I really, really loved this book. I read it in just a few days. I believe this was a 4-star read from me, but very close to a 5, if not a full 5 stars for me. It did make it onto my top books of 2020. I absolutely had a joy with this. I love cryptids. I know I just read Below by Laurel Hightower, which is all about Mothman. I'm literally about to go to Scotland to see, hopefully, the Loch Ness Monster. Well, maybe not. I don't want to get eaten. But, yeah, so I love this. This was so much fun. Great adventure horror and so many Sasquatches. So many big feet. Bigfoot. Bigfoots? Lots of them. Okay, and last but not least. Whew! Alright, guys, my heart is a chainsaw. I devoured this book. I devoured this book. I can't really... You know what? I don't know how I feel about the fact that there's a sequel coming out for this book, mainly because I just thought this book was great. Like, this was a 5-star read for me. I thought this book was, like, damn near perfect. I loved Jade. I loved her horror trivia essay things going on. But this is set on a lake that's pretty much, I think, about to celebrate their 4th of July, like, festival or whatnot. And it's just all the summer vibes. I believe it's the very end of school for our main character. But the lake setting, they're on a boat at one point. It's just very fun and summery, while also being very dark and also like super, super feminist. I am not a huge Stephen Graham Jones fan. I really don't like any of his other books, but I adore this book. And it is just so pro-women and so awesome and so fun and so weird. That I had to talk about it. And just the summer lake setting with the boats and like the summer houses and all of these, again, kind of like newbies coming and like kind of pushing out the locals is like a very big theme in this novel as well. Okay, so it says, you won't find a more hardcore 80s slasher film fan than high school senior Jade Daniels. And you won't find a place less supportive of girls who wear torn t-shirts and too much eyeliner than Proof Rock, nestled 8,000 feet up a mountain in Idaho, alongside Indian Lake. Home to both Camp Blood, site of a massacre 50 years ago, and, as of this summer, Terra Nova, a second home celebrity Camelot being carved out of a national forest. That's not the only thing that's getting carved up, though. This, Jade knows, is the start of a slasher. But what kind? Who's wearing the mask? Jade's got an encyclopedic recall of every horror movie on the shelf, but will that help her survive? Can she get a final girl trained enough to stop all this from happening? Does she even want to? Isn't a slasher exactly what her hometown deserves? This new novel by the New York Times bestselling author of The Only Good Indians, Stephen Graham Jones, called one of our most talented living writers by Tommy Orange, explores the changing landscape of the West through this distinctive voice of sharp humor and prophetic violence. Go up the mountain to Proof Rock. See if you've got what it takes. See if your heart, too, might be a chainsaw. Okay. Apart from the fact that that just had, like, for some reason, a gushing, like, run-on sentence about how great Stephen Graham Jones is, this book just makes me so excited. I love it. I love the setting. I love the tone. You have to really like and appreciate slasher films for this book, I will say. Otherwise, I feel like Jade's kind of like just long-ass chapters of essays are going to get really a lot for you, but they were actually my favorite part of the book. But another just fabulous read for summer. I really, really enjoyed it. Again, I know a lot of people have very differing views on Stephen Graham Jones than I do. I know some people absolutely adored The Only Good Indians. I couldn't stand it. And I've noticed that a lot of people who love The Only Good Indians, don't like My Heart is a Chainsaw. So if you're not a Stephen Graham Jones person, maybe stay away from this book, but I'm not a Stephen Graham Jones person, and I loved this novel. So yes, those are my 5 books for summer. We've got My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones, Max Brooks' Devolution, Until Summer Comes Around by Glenn Rolfe, My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix, and Malignant Summer by Tim Meyer. Anyways, that is all that I have for you guys today. As always, I post every Monday and Thursday, sometimes on Saturdays. And if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe buttons down below, and I will catch you all in the next one. Mwah!